Hello, everyone. Hi, guys. Hello. Now, I would like to say that I miss you guys, and we haven't been here for a few weeks, but it kind of just feels that way. But I also miss you guys. Sorry, that came off a little bit wrong. I do miss you guys, and I definitely miss the entirety of not being able to just be here and face to face with all of you. Last week was a bit different. Last week was something that was crazy, but also awesome. I don't know if you guys were here last week. We talked a lot about Mixer. We talked about Mixer. Mixer was the big chat. A lot of that show was not about Mixer as well, but it was mostly about Mixer. We talked about a lot of things. So this time, this is for those that are here and maybe new a little bit. This is kind of the general format of the show. So for those who've never seen this and never heard this before, we'll get into the show in just a second for real. But this is a show that was born based off a book that I wrote with my lovely friend Saber AP, aka Kim. Um, Got it right here. It's if you type exclamation point book in the Twitch chat, you can. But if you're watching on YouTube, there should be a link in the description. But it's called Twitch creating, growing, and monetizing your live stream. Now, you may hear that and go, "Oh, this guy's just trying to, he's trying to give me a bunch of tips that don't make any sense, and tips that I probably already know, and tips that he probably doesn't actually even know. He's just kind of guesstimating because that's how it goes." I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you right now that it the title is misleading, kind of. Um, it's titled that way for marketing purposes because it does have those aspects in there. You're creating it, we show you how to create it. You're growing it, we show you how to grow it. Um, and you're monetizing, but we're not gonna. In this book, it doesn't teach you how to. Hey, this is step one. Start your stream. Step two, make memes. Step three, profit. It's not like that. It's very much in the way of let's teach you what streaming is, and let's teach you the basics, but also the more advanced thought process. Because right here on this channel, and this stream specifically, or this show specifically, my goal is to provoke your thought. And I want you to be able to feel empowered to be able to come up with ideas and do all kinds of cool stuff that makes you feel like, hey, I know what I'm doing. Because if something is thrown at you, you don't have to scramble too hard to find the resources that help you answer what's going on. Because there's been a lot going on recently. There's been a lot going on recently. Um, there was a week where we took it off because it was right in the middle of a lot of that stuff happening. And then last week, Mixer, we had a lot of Mixer news. So we had Mixer friends on. We talked about that, but we haven't really sat down and truly talked about a lot of the social aspect behind what has been happening around here. I don't think we're quite ready yet to fully talk about that. I'm sorry if that was a little bit of a tease, but I don't think we're quite ready to talk about a lot of that. It's mostly we're still on the surface of be good to each other, be kind to each other, don't hurt anybody, and definitely don't hurt anybody on purpose, but definitely don't hurt people on accident. And what that means is doing your best to stay cognizant of your actions and make sure that your actions are conscious and in the moment and present to helping people or at least not hurting them. You know what I mean? So, that being said, continue, please, to keep giving to your favorite causes, whether that's Color of Change, whether that's the NAACP, whether that is abuse charities that help men and women and children get out of abusive homes, whether that's any of that. Um, Keep giving because as sad as it really is, the only thing that really helps people right now outside of helping your friends is money, unfortunately. And not everybody that wants to help has this money, but that is the best thing. So if you have a couple bucks, always give that to your favorite charity. You can always go to danotage.tv/donate. There's always a link there, but absolutely, there's those are links everywhere. Right now, it's in support of Color of Change. So go somewhere, go into Tiltify. Just go browse Tiltify for a little bit. There's stuff there too. Find that and do your very best to just keep helping because we're not done with any of this, and it's just gonna go away if we don't keep it And there's a few things to bring up with that necessarily, because there's been a whole lot of I don't want to go on Twitter ever again. And that is, and I was talking about this in my own stream the other day, and people were like, but we need your voice on Twitter. And I was like, yeah, I get that. I definitely get that. This is the kind of the thing I got mad at Dan Harmon about like years ago, because he got off of Twitter. He totally deleted Twitter. I didn't do that yet, but he totally deleted Twitter because he was like, it's too negative there. There's too many people that just want to just bash you down. I mean, he's Dan Harmon, so he's getting a lot of like Rick and Morty fans and a lot of community fans that just don't want to they just don't want anything other than, the biggest of memes, and it's like, whatever. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, keep posting your stuff out there. I'm gonna continue to respond to anybody that tweets at me, and I would continue to post things when I think of something. But it's no longer a medium that I feel like it's even close to a safe space anymore, which sucks because it is a very powerful medium. It literally changed a lot in the past month. Um, and changed a lot in the past few years. So that's really interesting and very good. It's the power of social media, and anybody that says that social media is bad is, well, you're right. You're very much right, but there's also a lot of good that can come out of it. Anyway, that is my soapbox for the beginning. Let's actually start this show. There's a whole bunch more we could talk about, but I don't want to take up too much of it and actually like kill the episode that I wanted to bring out today. So let's officially start it. What do you guys say, chat? Do you have any questions? Anything before we go on, by the way? I mean, Tomorrowg is in that book. Yes, Tomorrowg is in that book, along with Loco and Hunter, actually. Anybody else in StreamerSquare in this book? I don't think so. Sir Slaw's in here. There's a lot of people in here. Miss Harvey's in here. There's Hunter Wild. There's Little Sia in here. Venilus is in here. There's a lot of people in here. A lot of good people too. I'd say everybody in here is pretty amazing. But yeah, we've got a lot of cool stuff in here. So check that out. Go pick that up. I would say that there won't be a new version of this book coming out anytime soon. What's it called? Truey made a video about the top 10 books that she found about streaming. She made a video about that and showing off a lot of the stuff that she found. She happened to review our book first, so that was pretty cool. And she gave one of the biggest compliments I've ever heard, which was, if I was in a college learning about streaming, this is probably the book I would be given as a textbook, and to see that going in there. And I was like, that's pretty damn cool. I was like, that is by far, and people will talk about, oh, it's so good to help me like get rich and stuff. I was like, no. This is that is by far the coolest compliment I've had, because that's what we're going for. What's more of a compliment than actually somebody seeing fully what you were trying to go for? Because in everything that has been done and said within this industry, I do feel like there's just a lot of information being puked out into the world. It's the whole reason I joined the StreamerSquare team here in the first place, and why I was on the shows a lot before joining here. It felt like the only place where I felt like there was a true love of education going on here, and it felt like there was a lot of structure. And structure is not always necessary for stuff like that, but it is for education, in my opinion. Because if you don't structure education, if you don't put that in a way that says, hey, let's talk about this today, let's talk about this today, but also with a little bit of loosey-goosey improvisation and stuff like that, you'll see my teaching structure is very much like that. We have a topic we're going to talk about, but one, it may take us a while to get there, but two, we're just going to dance around it for a little bit as well. And then, as we get closer, we hone in. It's like taking a sniper shot in a video game, and that holding of your breath, which, by the way, you don't ever suck in to hold your breath when you're taking a shot. You always pause at the bottom of your breath, but it doesn't matter. That's video game accuracy. It's whatever. It's fine. It's like that. And being able to focus in and take that shot and line it up, and right when it's perfect, boom, it's done. But yeah, we're gonna get in there. It's not only that, it's a lot of stuff out there with the game. How to game the system, not learn about. Yes, so there are a bunch of books out there of how to game the system, and that's exactly why I pointed out why this title is interesting, and why I was I accepted and was on board for the title, but I definitely saw the concerns, because yes, the title of creating, growing, and monetizing your live stream seems predatory, or at least it seems like, hey, let's show you how to game the system. And yeah, that's exactly what I didn't want to do, because it is, yes, that's very much what it is. It is that clickbait. And because the marketing team over at Prima Games are good at getting people to click on their stuff and good at getting people to buy their products, that's what they came up with, and that's totally cool. So that's just kind of how it goes. So with that being said, let's start this bad boy. Hey, and what's up, dude? Ready? Welcome to an all new episode of Dan's Stream of Thought. The day is July 7th, 2020. 2020, the year that seems to be lasting a lifetime. I think we'll be okay. I'm pretty sure we'll be okay. Once again, keep giving to your favorite charities. Give to the people that really, really need it. And we're gonna get through this one issue at a time and as an entire group as a whole. So let's keep doing that. Let's keep working on that. Let's keep moving forward. Today, we're going to talk about the job and how to get that to be a big piece. How big piece to your professional career. This is a job for a lot of people. A lot of people have said, hey, I'm going to make some money. I'm going to pay my bills with this. And some people have said, hey, I'm going to make a full career out of this. Some people have, and most people have said, and I would say mostly everybody at this point, at one point has said, I'm going to make this a hobby and see where this goes because I really like doing it. So there's hobbies, there's jobs, there's careers, there's all kinds of stuff. And really, what does that come down to? It comes down to how you feel about it, in all honesty. Because there's a lot of times where I've definitely felt like, hey, I don't know if I'm going to make a big enough paycheck to be able to pay all the bills this month. There's definitely a lot of months that have been like that. Does that make it not my career? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. A career is not defined by just the fact that you can pay all your bills and it's something that's growing. Your career is the in a lot of ways, it's the thing you want to do for as long as humanly possible because you enjoy doing it, but also that it is a piece of society that is helping to be part of it, and that's just what you do. You are that career, and that is the job you want to do for hopefully the rest of your life. Because as much as I don't want to stream for the rest of my life, because that might actually kill me early, I want to be in this space of entertainment for the rest of my life, and this is definitely that step forward. So whether you think about it that way or whether you think about it in a very part-time, very um very what's the word very based on a hobby, a hobbyist, you see that as the way that says, hey, I'm here, I'm doing it, I understand what's going on, but also I'm taking it seriously. Because even hobbyists, like, I mean, that's the thing. What is a hobby? A hobby is actually a fun thing you take seriously, really. So as long as we're taking it seriously, as long as we're having fun with it, it's good. Obviously, taking things too seriously will get it rough, but at the same time, that is something that is important. I mean, I remember when I was young and I was in high school, a buddy of mine, one of my only friends, my best friend, in high school, we got into helicopters and RC cars, RC planes, RC helicopters, and RC cars. Very expensive hobby, by the way. But it was something that we got into, and we got so serious about it that sometimes we would fight about it, but sometimes we would be so ecstatic about what was going on that, like, for each birthday we'd give each other parts, and we'd share moments of when we went out by ourselves one day, and it's like, dude, I actually I did the full loop de loop with the helicopter. And then, yeah, by the way, you can be upside down with the helicopter if you guys didn't know that. But yeah, we like did the full loop de loop with the helicopter. It was awesome. Um, and that became the hobby that we really cared about. And streaming very much goes that way in so many different lights. You see structure beyond having a schedule, beyond what games you're going to be planning on playing that day. How many people plan on before you started streaming? How many, raise your hand if you started planning what game you're going to play that day, other than just being excited about it? I would say there's probably some of that. At least with me, I was like, oh, dude, I can't wait to play this game today. It's been super good. But at the same time, what did you actually say, "Oh, I'm gonna play this for 8 hours today," or, "I'm gonna play this for 4 hours today," and then switch the game, switch the game up 4 hours in? I don't know if you guys did that, but I definitely didn't do that. I absolutely did not do that nearly as much as I do now. And now we have a entirely different situation where I'm planning not only what I'm doing that day, but sometimes what I'm doing the whole week. I'm playing 7 days of that right now. This is my intention to play it all week long. It's my intention to do A, B, and C throughout these things. Um, but yeah, it's I guess in survival games, you kind of do plan a little bit forward, but in the same sense, you don't really that much. You don't sit there and draw it on paper like, hey, I'm gonna do all these things together, and this is gonna create good content, or you're gonna do this because it's exciting and people are gonna want to watch that. It's like, it's a very different circumstance. And then when you talk about like if you look at like what Loco does on a daily basis, Loco is very much on the side of like basically almost doing what a news cycle does on a daily basis, is putting together a bunch of information to be able to talk about and kind of semi-scripting it out. Um, where you're like, hey, this is what's happening in the news today. This is what's happening on streamer Twitter. Let's break it down. Let's figure out what's going on. Let's try to be impartial about it. And that's a whole cycle within itself. Speaking of stuff like that, though, we're going into part 3 of this series. This series has been a few pieces of like assembling your team, figuring out what you need as part of your team, and this is going to be team delegation. Now, this is not necessarily the thing you have to do and is like, oh, the first thing you need to do is start a team. No, this is part of when you're ready to move on to have a team, because while I do believe, and I very much believe in every single one of you, you can do a lot of this by yourself. You can. But like most of us, we're only human, and it's hard to really recommend you put that all on yourself. It's not easy. There's a lot of work to be done, and if you're like me, who likes to put a lot of work on myself, I don't do it very well, right? So meaning, let me explain. If I'm really good at messing with audio, but I'm also really good at putting alerts together. I'm also really good at doing whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm not really good at most of those things. But if I were to be really good at every little thing individually, what would that do to the actual production? It would take months to get like everything you wanted that quarter or whatever it was to get done for your stream. When in reality, especially if you hint at it, like if you're like me, I talk to my community about, hey, we're gonna be doing this soon. We're gonna be doing this soon. And then they forget about it, which is kind of a blessing sometimes, because when it does come around, it's a surprise. But at the same time, sometimes they're like, hey, where's that thing you promised us? Or where's that thing you talked about? It's like, well, first of all, I didn't promise, because it's hard to promise things. That's probably not a great idea to promise things when you know it's not ready yet. Um, but it's like, "Hey, where's the thing you promised?" And I'm just like, I'm working on it, I promise. I'm doing my very, very, very best to work on this and get this done." But then you realize, "Hey, I'm doing it all myself." And it's not like I don't have people around to I don't it's not like I haven't assembled my team really, because I have, like, my mod team. I have people who have volunteered in my mod team to edit videos. I've had people who have been around to say, "Hey, I can develop this thumbnail for you. I can develop, this piece of the bot for you. I can rewrite this section of our bot. It's JavaScript. I know JavaScript pretty well." And then I sit there, it's like, "Hey, yeah, we'll talk about that." And I say that because I it's not that I don't want to utilize their skills, it's that distracted. I'm distracted by what's happening. And that happens a lot when you don't delegate very well. And I'm in certain situations, like quick snap situations, I'm good at delegating, right? It's like, hey, we need to get something done in the next hour. I will delegate pretty well. You do this, you do this, you do this, and then we'll meet and we'll figure this out. But if it's like long term stuff, I'm always like, no, I'll just do it. I got time. There's no deadline. I'll just do it. When in reality, there kind of is a deadline, because that deadline it's soft, it's gray, it's wide, but it is kind of like a deadline because you want to get it done in a certain amount of time. And if you don't, you start to disappoint people, and that becomes obviously an issue. I don't think anybody, any streamer in general, any content creator in general, wants to disappoint their fans because they know that disappointing their fans either comes back in backlash, or it comes back in non-success, and it comes back in reverse success, it comes back in all kinds of things. So you definitely want to focus it on giving people stuff to do so that they can do it. And then there's the balance of like, hey, but what if this person feels overworked? That's probably part of my problem too. Is somebody I don't want anybody to feel like I'm using them. I've had people, and a lot of people in my past, who have yelled at me for using them, when even if it wasn't true, because like there's been many times where it's like, oh, you've just used this to step up and get more popular so you can do your own show. And I'm like, you could keep telling yourself that. This is a true story, by the way. It's like you can keep telling yourself that. I really just didn't like being on this show. That's why I left. Because I was on a show a long time ago where it just didn't feel like it was the right fit. And they really weren't doing anything for me. So there's no way that I could have used them. But there was that ego that got in the way, but that doesn't in the end, it doesn't matter, right? You upset them, you did something that hurt them, you kind of need to understand it at least. At least understand it. Sometimes it's hard to accept that you've hurt somebody, but it's at least the very least you can do is try to understand what's going on. That way, if you understand what's going on, you have a way of apologizing, right? And a way of apologizing in a genuine fashion. Uh, we still haven't made up. It's been a long time. We still haven't made up. Every time I see him, I see them, I should say. There's a couple of them. Every time I see them, they kind of just keep their distance. I'm like, I wish we could fix this, and I've tried many times, but that's just kind of what happens, especially in any industry that is ego driven. Because let's be honest, this industry is very ego driven. Um, but I digress. You have to delegate to these teams, because if you don't, there's going to be a lot of that happening. And when it comes down to overworking somebody, you have to do your best to try to gauge that. My favorite thing is to check in. Now, some people find it annoying to check in with somebody over and over and over again, but I need to be sure of what's going on, especially with, my team, with the team that I care about, the team that are doing stuff for me. I need to be sure of that. So I check in constantly with the people that are doing stuff. Hey, how's it going? Just simply, how's it going? And thankfully, I haven't had anybody say, um, like, hey, dude, stop bothering me. You're rushing me. I've never had that, because I try to make it clear that, hey, I'm not trying to rush you. I'm literally just trying to figure out where everything is going right now, and to make sure that you're okay. And they tend to be pretty okay. Granted, a lot of people I've worked with recently, Gesundheit. Uh, a lot of people I've worked with recently tend to be pretty fast, so that doesn't I they tend to not feel rushed, I think. But there's also this kind of realm of uncertainty that you do need to be aware of as well. When people are volunteering for you, and we're going to talk about how that ties back into this too. When people volunteer for you, they tend to really just want to impress you and make you happy and make sure things are better for you and easier for you. Um, So that is something that you have to make sure that it doesn't feel like you're taking advantage of. And this is where we're going to go back into this, and the whole like checking in and stuff like this, and making sure that everything's going, and being as empathetic as humanly possible. It's a lot of things that don't get done, especially through text chat only. There's empathy kind of gets lost sometimes unless you pay attention to it, unless you really, really care about it. Um, but if somebody just says, "Hey, I'm fine. Hey, I'm getting there. I'm doing my best," stuff like that, make sure you're clear about your intentions. Hey, no, I'm not rushing you. I promise. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on, because I have A, B, and C that I want to either get started because you need a little bit more time, or you need to put on the back burner because you're almost done. And to be clear with that communication, sometimes it helps to have a group chat for all your moderators or all your team, so that people can sort of feel out the room, and it doesn't feel like you're going after somebody individually. But sometimes, if you are going after somebody individually, maybe to do that in a private message, because you don't want to do that in public. Remember to Always, always, always praise in public and what is the I forget this word actually all the time. I also forget a lot of words. My language center in my brain for some maybe sometimes doesn't work. But to talk talk to somebody about maybe something that they're doing wrong or something that they're missing, maybe do it in private. Because you don't want to embarrass anybody because that just it ruins everybody's relationship and it definitely takes everybody a notch down. It's exactly why they do it in a lot of certain areas because they want to do these things. Personally, I think those things are evil and not necessarily fully effective, but some people do those things on purpose. At what point would this be key? At what stage would become priority, like size wise? For having your team, I don't think there's any size that matters when it comes to having a team, honestly. The size of your channel may actually dictate the size of your team, but having a team or at least one person that is caring about your stream, I don't think there's a minimum for that. I really don't. If it comes down to, and so check the last part of this series where we kind of do touch on how big should your team be, what people should come into your team based on what size your channel is and whatnot. Constructive criticism is the word I was looking for. Thank you. Um, but we talked a little bit about like, hey, you may have 10 viewers consistently, right? Does that mean you need a team? And it's like the answer is that you don't necessarily ever need a team, but having a team helps, and putting that together helps. And when you have 10 consistent viewers, that is 10 people that can come in and make your day good or bad. And sometimes one of those people just needs to be a trusted moderator. And that trusted moderator is part of your team. One thing that I failed to learn for such a long time streaming is the moderation team that is in your channel is a part of your channel for more than just I care about this. I'm going to keep bad things out of chat. Now, for some moderators, that's the job they put on themselves, and that's all they need to do, and that's great. And honestly, depending on your size, you probably need a couple of those. They're like, I'm just here to mod. I'm just here to delete bad things. I'm just here to drop commands. That's all I'm here to do. And like I said, sometimes that's really all you need. But there's some people out there that want to do more. They want to see something, want to make the channel partially theirs. And in a lot of ways that should be accepted. Honestly, there's some people out there a little bit toxic and come in and try to take over certain things and say that, oh, you should definitely be doing this. Obviously, you take that into consideration, but they'll understand that you know what you're doing, or that you're doing what you want to do, and that's it. But like I said, the biggest thing is always going to be that, which is any amount of team is going to help you at any time, no matter what. Having a moderator that you're close to and you create a relationship with like an actual professional and social relationship with, where you're talking about whatever it is that you want to talk about, somebody that you can actually trust is always good, because you want somebody to be able to feed you suggestions that's outside of just somebody who visits your chat once a week or whatever it might be, or visits your channel once a week, whatever it is. Because one, you want to stay accountable. If you're doing something wrong, you definitely want somebody to tell you. But if you're doing something right, you want somebody to tell you and give you more of a good feeling about it. Because obviously, when people are watching a streamer and they say in the chat, there's a lot of people who are just going to tell you that, hey, you're great, you're doing everything fantastic, you need nothing to change. And that means you like, yeah, you got fans. That's awesome. You got a bunch of people that love what you're doing. Fantastic. Good job. But you need somebody to be honest with you sometimes too. Hey, this is great because of A, B, and C. You really had good engagement here. People were talking. People were actually talking about the thing you had on screen, which often, especially in small channels, doesn't always happen. People are just chatting it up sometimes. A lot of people do treat smaller channels like chat rooms where they can just get to know each other, and that's great. That's a community. That is the development of a community right there. But when you're able to do stuff and people are paying attention to what you have on screen, you have an additive piece to that. You have an additive piece of, hey, there's a community being formed here, but hey, they're also engaging with the content. So you want a combination of those two. And you want somebody that is in the chat watching you, not doing it like yourself, to be able to tell you, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I observe from the audience. This is how it goes. And that's incredibly important, that's invaluable, and that only takes one person. That doesn't even really take anybody with like business sense or anybody that's like incredibly good at this job. All that takes is somebody who is able to be honest with you and to tell you what's going on while also being there and understanding what's in front of them. And it doesn't take a whole lot really. It just like I said, take somebody that you can trust and will talk to you frankly. That's not it. Frankly. um Frankfurter. Uh, but yeah, okay. So let's catch up in chat a little bit real quick. Delegation is great, but follow up is key. Follow up is important, yes, 100%. Because if you delegate and don't guide them along the way, you're going to be in trouble. I guarantee that. Answered that. Good. So, are you speaking particularly about collab projects as opposed to utilizing other content creators to help each other develop their own streams? No, this is no. Sorry, not Twitch teams like that. I'm talking about the team within a channel. So like JD White and Tamorag and everybody that's in here that is in our in the StreamerSquare Discord that can answer questions based on what they do. Rini, who's part of communications, um, Wes, who basically does a little bit of everything. That's a team, right? That's the team that helps you get that stream off the ground. That helps you get what you're doing to do it properly. Um, that's more of what I'm talking about. Twitch teams, that's a whole different category that we can get into. I'm very confused by it still, and I've been in here for a while. I think honestly, Tamorag's probably the biggest authority on this. Tamorag and Loco, both of them have very big authorities on teams in general, and I think they've probably done a stream scene about this. I'm not sure, but I don't understand how to do a team on Twitch. I understand how I would like to do many teams on Twitch, but they don't always happen. You can look at some teams that are still doing well, like or still doing what I think kind of should happen with teams. Like the flagship is doing pretty okay. They do a lot of stuff together, and they help each other grow and whatnot. And that's kind of what Twitch teams are still and always have been that day. Would You Kindly is very good at that. Yeah. Would You Kindly is very good at that. There's just a lot of those teams where you develop communities together. My favorite thing about Would You Kindly too is they very much branch out to just help everybody around them too. So like while I'm not part of Would You Kindly, like they support me as much as they possibly can. It's really cool just to get to know every single one of them. Main menu is the same way. It was the same way that where everybody on that team I got to know pretty well, and we all supported each other, and it was just a good time. The flagship's kind of the same way too. You get to know like they branch out, and maybe that's why I see them as model teams. Is they're their own group, they're their own a lovely amount of people, but they also try to touch everybody around them and say, "Hey, I'm here with you. I'm here for you. What you got?" It's like it's like, oh, we're not accepting you into the team because that's more of an official thing that obviously you can't just accept everybody, but it's still a, hey, we're branching out to you. This is what we're doing. We're going to touch you and help you in a certain way. Um, Katie chuckle at me saying we're going to touch you. Yeah, of course. Uh, but yeah, that's kind of that's in the Twitch team realm, and we could definitely have a full episode on that later. And like I said, there are probably stream scene episodes about that. But there's definitely that's a whole different category of conversation. I struggled too. Yeah, of course. I heard it. Trust me, Chad. I heard it. I didn't. I thought we were all grown ups here. Uh, so yes, the team we're talking about is the local teams, the local team to you that say, hey, how do we make the Danotage brand better? How do we make the StreamerSquare brand better? And usually by developing tools and whatnot. If I have tech problems, I talk to GamerTech. GamerTech's got my back in every type of tech world. Um, but at the same time, I'm not going to go to him about content tips and stuff like that. What kind of content should we be creating? He doesn't really focus on that. He doesn't really do stuff like that. But I will talk to somebody like one of my mods, Urinal, or I'll talk to Sagire about it. And we'll be like, hey, what are we thinking of? Like, how's this game you think going to perform right now? What's going to happen here? Are you guys watching other people play this game? Is the chat very much into it? What's going on? and we'll have that conversation. Or if I talk to Yurnulf, who's our Swedish love, amazing human being from the IKEA land, uh, he is like he's always the guy that's on top of all the memes, and he'll throw me a bunch of memes, and I filter out which ones I absolutely dislike and which ones I'm not going to touch with a 10-foot pole, and which ones are just going to be like funny to kind of go with. And usually I'm talking about like which meme games are out there and stuff like that. Janky simulators is kind of my thing. Um, so there's all kinds of things like that, and we definitely focus on utilizing our teams that way. But Yurnolf is also very good at editing videos and putting stuff together that says, "Hey, I know this content." Because obviously you don't always need the greatest video editor in the world to make a really good video. Sometimes you need somebody who was at that stream or who knows your content best so that they can go through and say, "Hey, these are probably the parts that we want to pull out. These are probably the parts that the community likes. Let's pull those parts out and let's make highlights of those." And that's invaluable to me. Yurnolf is he's a good editor. Um, but he's more powerful as somebody who knows the content, and that's a big part of your team too. And if that happens to be like, say you have 10 viewers or whatever it might be on average, and let's say you have one mod that kind of does stuff like that, um, you can help that person out too as part of the delegation. Hey, do you mind putting together a highlight video with what's going on? I got some games I can give you in return, whatever. You mind putting together a highlight video? And while if they're doing that while they're on stream with you, sometimes you may need to pick up the slack and moderating for a little bit. You know, if something's in chat and you're like, "Oh my god, where's my mod? This needs to get deleted." Just take a second and delete it. Delete that message or whatever it might be, because you know you have somebody doing work for you, and that's part of the delegation. Part of the delegation is always picking up the slack and taking that into consideration when putting together and utilizing said team is important. Grown-ups? Question mark. Yes, grown-ups. Aren't we grown-ups? We're grown-ups, right? Wait, I guess grown-ups isn't necessarily just an age thing, is it? Let's see. There's a couple things here. I'm curious. When do you have those? When you have those months when you're on the fence, maybe financial trouble with this kind of career. What do you do? What options do you have? It's tough. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about school. So I've been in school for a long time, but it's since streaming, I've kind of taken it off. But I wanted to go back to school and finish my studies to then go and find a job. I've looked at jobs before. I'm constantly on the look for a job in the industry or a job that I enjoy. But because streaming is doing well, I don't take anything that looks like I'm not going to want to do that for the rest of my life because I don't want to regret saying hey, stopping my stream because as we know stream is a very much a momentum thing. I don't want to regret stopping my stream to go do a job that I may not love forever, right? Because that is a big decision. But I apply to jobs a lot. I apply to things that I think might be cool. Sometimes I get calls, sometimes I don't. Most of the time I don't, but sometimes you get those things. So I'm always looking out for that, and I'm always looking out as well for stuff to invest in, right? If your stream is doing well for a little bit, remember not to just spend all that money. Save it so that when you do have those bad months, you don't feel like there's just utter grim happening. Um, which does it sinks in and it hurts a lot when you're like, "Oh man, I shouldn't have bought that new keyboard." It's like $150 keyboard. I didn't need it. It's not something that I needed to upgrade my system with. Ah, now I don't have, that 150 I could have spent on groceries to this week or this month when I didn't realize that I wasn't going to keep all the subs that I had this month or whatever it might be. But that kind of just becomes this feeling. So what do I do? Well, try to understand what I signed up for. I've been full time, quote unquote, full time since I started on Twitch, like 5.5 years ago. A lot of people will talk about the fact that full time does mean you're getting a paycheck, but to me, full time was how much time I was spending on it. I was spending at least 40 hours on my stream every week. And that had nothing to do with making a profit. Most of that time was actually spent building charity things and programs to be able to have charity goals and incentives. That was a long time ago, but yeah, that's the whole reason that a lot of that time went in. Sometimes it was just doing the stream and learning by doing because that's my thing. I tend to not be very good at something right away, or at least what people see. I'm not very good at something right away because I kind of just do it. And I'm not very good at it when I start it, but I learn by doing it. Sometimes doing the whole study up on this, read about it, and things like that, that doesn't necessarily help me, but sometimes I do try it. But getting in there and saying, "Hey, I know what I signed up for. This is gonna be tough. It's gonna be very inconsistent, but I'm gonna do my best to stay consistent no matter what is changing around me." And that's important, because you constantly want to say, "Hey, this may not be a good month, or every month might not be a good month as far as financially, but you're prepared for it, right? So you can make it a good month, at least emotionally, or content wise, or whatever it might be, because that is the crux of streaming and building that momentum. Is if you start to get down on yourself too hard and it becomes visual, well, then that bad month can possibly become worse, right? Because you not only are you feeling the downward momentum, so are the people watching you. So the consistency is key, and people talk about consistency. People have been talking about consistency on Twitch for a long time, and I've always combated against the definition of consistency, because consistency in a lot of ways to people means constant schedule, stream at the same time every day, stream a similar game or genre every day, and continue to give people on paper a reason to come back. I think that's important for a lot of ways, and this my mod team has very much been part of this and been part of like keeping me on track here, because they'll remind me, "Hey, you haven't played this game that you were playing for a while in a long time. You might want to get back to it and get a lot of those people back that followed you for that reason." Um, because that is important. On paper, you do want to do that, but in my opinion, the best way to stay consistent is your attitude. Is the most important thing is your attitude, because no matter if people find, "Oh, you're playing the game that I followed you for, I should go watch that," and they come in and, and you're just not being the same, or you're not being yourself, or whatever it might be, it's like, well, okay, well, I came in for the game, but I'm not staying because I'm not having a good time here. And we've all had those problems, and I still sometimes we still have bad days where it's like I'm just grumpy, and the slightest piece of sarcasm in chat might come off to me as somebody taking a jab at me, and I'm just like, "Ah, you jerk face, why do you say things like that? I don't like memes today." And that's me. It happens. Um, but yeah, that is something to pay attention to, because again, on paper is not always the most important thing. On paper does makes sense, but in practice is always going to be better. And in practice is almost always going to be your attitude on stream. But sometimes you create a brand that way too. And that becomes, I mean, look at rest in peace, the amazing wonderful Mr. Total Biscuit. Um if it was your first time ever seeing Total Biscuit or listening to him like talk about something, it's very easy to say, "Oh man, this is just some salty kid on the internet. Who cares about what he's saying?" But then you understand that what he talks about is important to the industry, and what he was talking about was in a tone that was keeping developers and publishers accountable for what they were doing. You understand that, oh, this is just his passion coming through, and him talking about how much he loves the industry. And when he's breaking something down, it's probably for good reason. It's probably for the reason of saying, "Hey, you people need to pay attention to this, because if you don't, you're not going to get what you want out of it." Because a lot of the time he was very critical to content in general. He's critical to games and game developers specifically, because most of the time, because he liked them. He's like, you need to pay attention to what you're doing here, because you're going to ruin a good thing that you have. Um, and sometimes he was straight up butthole, but I mean that's just kind of how it goes. But that created that brand of, I'm going to be harsh to certain things because I want them to change for the better. And it was never personal to really Dan. As far as I understand, he was never really personally hurting anybody. So no harm, no foul, really. Um, but yeah, that is the brand that you create. And if the brand you create is always hype and always exciting and always, here we go, we're gonna always be doing this, well, you better pay attention to keeping that up, and remember that that may be that your downfall too. One of the biggest thing I hear from voice actors all the time is they often regret doing a strenuous voice for a character because it's cool. It's probably what got them the job in the first place, but then when the show gets picked up for 20 seasons, there's a couple you probably understand where I'm getting at here. You pick up a you get your show gets picked up for 20 seasons. You then have to do that strenuous voice for 20 years. Granted, if you could do it for 20 years, it probably isn't going to hurt you or kill you, but it's still going to be uncomfortable. So it's the same thing, right? For me, when I was trying things, I would do that whole I would get really hyped and excited about certain things, and then I realized to myself, I'm like, I'm not fully being like I am being genuine, but not fully being genuine about a lot of these things. And that's going to make it extremely difficult to keep up for the rest of my career. And I was at the point where I was like, oh, I do want to make this a career. So I better start thinking of things like this. Um, and it became exactly that. It became exactly that. You have to pay attention to what's going to be here for the rest of your career. So now my demeanor is more like this. It's passionate, but it's collected, hopefully. Sometimes I get emotional, and sometimes that changes, but I think that I do that enough to where that's part of the brand too. And I'm not saying at all that my brand is perfect, but that is important to be there. And again, we're gonna still keep trying to tie it back to the target topic at hand. But your team is gonna keep you accountable for that. And like I said, your team could be one person. That's fine. But your team should be always keeping you accountable for that. For me, the first thing I do ask my moderators is, hey, pay attention to chat. Just make sure nobody's doing anything stupid. There's not a whole lot of rules for this chat. So just make sure that they're not doing anything harmful. But also, if you got a suggestion, like give it to me. Like, I don't care what it is, give it to me because I may not listen to it because I may not like it. I might have pushback on it, but like, give it to me because we'll talk about it. I will never tell you you're wrong. I never tell you you're stupid. I never demean you because if I was starting to do that, you'd probably be I would you wouldn't be on the team anymore, or not because of you or because of what's happening, but because I may have done something wrong. But essentially, and I've never done that before, but that's kind of how I see that. Um, but yeah, if your team is keeping you accountable and your team is making sure that what you're doing is on brand or what you're doing is something that you and your community like, well, that's all they're really needed for. That's like the big piece there. And then you go to delegating like art stuff or music stuff or bot stuff or all the things that go into what goes into a stream. Maybe you need somebody to produce the show for you. Maybe you need yourself a Tamorag who's sitting there saying, "Hey, I got all the ones and twos right here. You just do your show and I can do everything else." And sometimes you just need something like that. Because I will say that is nice. So yeah, sometimes you just need to put stuff there and putting together your teams and threes and fours and sixes and 12s and 12s and 24s and 48s and no, I'm not going to do that because that is going to hurt my math brain. That doesn't exist. Um, but yeah, I mean, those are all going to exist, and you continue to work on that, and that's continue to keep your team accountable as well, right? Obviously, that constructive criticism, do in private. You don't want to embarrass anybody because embarrassment doesn't go away easily. Um, and praise kind of does, unfortunately, sometimes, depending on what's going on. But you praise in public so that maybe everybody can. So this is kind of an extra philosophy on top of not hurting somebody. But praising in public does help that praise last longer. It really does, because when you praise in public, you also have other people who chime in. Yeah, good job, man. That was really cool. That was awesome. Or wow, that amazing image is great. And not only does the streamer tell the team member that they did a good job, but now the rest of the team is telling did a good job too. And that praise goes bigger and longer and wider. Um, and and with the same opposite effect, you want the criticism to not be lingering and hurtful for, or at least feeling down for a long enough time. So you do that in private, and then that way, hopefully, the person you're talking to, the person you are criticizing a little bit, feels a little bit more comfortable because it's in private to be able to tell you what their side of the story is because you do want to hear that side of the story. And sometimes if it's in public, it's not necessarily that way, but you do want to hear in that do want to hear that side of the story. You would do want to say, "Hey, I want to know what you're going through." That way, if I'm saying something that is totally tone deaf or not empathetic or not understanding what your situation is, or maybe there's a real life situation that they just didn't tell you about. They don't need to tell you that in pub or in private either, but they maybe need to tell you, "Yeah, I've had some private stuff going on. I promise it has nothing to do with my dedication to what's going on. I'm just trying to take care of that." And sometimes you want to make them feel comfortable. It's like, "Hey, man, you don't ever have to tell me what's going on, but if you just want to tell me that there's private stuff going on, just tell me that, and I won't put any extra work on you, and we'll call it there. And you just tell me when you're ready to do more stuff." And then that's part of keeping the comfort and camaraderie in your team too. Also, be careful not to embarrass the individual. Well, yeah, that's part of the whole criticizing in public too. Yeah, embarrassment is huge because embarrassment will last a lifetime if you do it in public. It very much can. I mean, isn't the whole movie Carrie based on that kind of? Um, didn't Carrie kill a bunch of people because they embarrassed her? Uh, Embarrassment is a very, very powerful emotion. Let's see. Some people would rather be praised in private too. Oh, I see what you're saying. They don't like attention. It's all about knowing. Yeah, that's big too. That is actually a good point that I don't think about too often. Um, let's see. Have I ever had that situation? Yeah, probably. I would assume they never really said that to me in any like actual official fashion. But there's probably people that are like, no, 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 stop, 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 stop. I'm just doing what I think is cool and what I want to do to help you. Don't. It's fine. Like you said, thank you. We're good. You know, and that you got to pick up on stuff like that. They may not straight out tell you because they are embarrassed, but some you got to pick up on stuff like that. If they really don't want to be praised too hard because it's embarrassing for them, you should probably pay attention to that. And that goes for community members too, because I think the every time I think of something like that, it's usually been from a community member, not from a mod or not from a team member. Um, but the same thing goes the same way. Like if somebody's gifting subs to you all the time and somebody's just trying to support your channel or somebody's like tipping all the time, what have you, and then they kind of just like lurk in the background, they're just like, yeah, I'm just trying to silently support you. Then maybe that's what they want to do. And if you want to go to them in private and ask them about that, it's like, hey, do you mind how much like I praise you and talk about you and thank you and stuff like that? If you don't, like, I'll thank you. I'll say, hey, you're awesome, and move on or whatever it might be. But and then also sometimes you gotta be a little bit more forward with you're doing that too. It's like, hey man, or sometimes honestly, I'll go into private. It's like, hey, you've been supporting a ton. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for everything you do. Um, I I try to say thank you and move on so that one we can would get more content and in so that what everybody's enjoying, but also I don't want you to feel embarrassed and feel like what you're doing is like making things crazy or whatnot, because that happens too. There's some people who want the attention, definitely. There's some people that just want to silently support you and move on. And sometimes they'll say, "No, I'm good. I'm good with everything. No, no problems. No problems here." Or something that's saying, "Hey, I'm just trying to help. You saying thank you is all I need." And you know, communication with that is big. Personally, I try to communicate with as many people that want to communicate with me as possible. I definitely understand that the Twitch platform is about engagement, which is why celebrities will probably any celebrity that comes onto Twitch will more than likely be extremely successful, because it is a live format and they can literally talk to them is huge because that is what Twitch is. It's literally talking to people. So that is a big thing. So there's a lot of streamers who don't want to talk to their community too much, especially in private. It's like, "Oh, just bring it up in chat next time." Not because and sometimes it's not for like a legitimate reason. Like I don't want to talk to you, or I know the legitimate reasons. There's the illegitimate reasons are, oh, this is something that I don't have. I'm busy or whatever. And I guess that's a legitimate reason, but you know what I'm getting at. Like If you have the time to talk to your community member because they want to message you and tell you something, I suggest taking it. Obviously, I'm not your dad. I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I suggest taking it because it means so much to everybody. And it means for me personally, it means a ton to me because I'm like, somebody actually watches the stream and then wants to engage with me outside of just watching me do stupid stuff on in a video game. That's pretty cool. Like, that's awesome. How do you politely ask somebody not to thank you or shout you out so much? Privately, like I personally think privately going to somebody and saying, "Hey, I just want you to know I love your stream. I want to support you as much as possible. I want you to put out as much content as you possibly can. So like, obviously, I know you want to thank me, but uh, that's all I need. Just thank me and do what you got to do. I know you feel the need to. And it's because a lot of people, this is the side of the streamer. They feel the need to put out so much energy into thanking somebody for like gifting 100 subs. Like, dude, you're like, oh my god, that's 100 subscriptions. That's huge. Thank you so much. Oh my god, if you guys have not hung out with A, B, or C with Jimmy Joe Bob, like they're in Discord all the time, chat with them. It's like, no, I don't need any of that. I just wanted to gift 100 subs. Go to them and be like, I appreciate the thanks. You're awesome. The whole reason I did this because I love what you do. And I understand that you want to put so much energy into thanking me. I want you to do your show. That's why I do this. So a simple thank you and moving on, I'm totally cool with. And I guarantee every streamer that sees that or hears that will probably feel more comfortable about that person. And then because like we have a couple people that have been supporting the stream since basically I started. And when they gift a sub or when they subscribe or whatever, it's like, dude, Prendium, you know how much I love you. Thank you so much. I just said his name, Prendium. You know how much I love you. You're freaking amazing. Um, Thank you so much. And I think they understand. From what I understand, because we've spoken privately a lot of times. From what I understand, they understand how much I appreciate them, and and that's awesome. That's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, private whispers and DMs are the best way to go, I would say. For me, if you ever want to contact me, like you can almost always do that in Discord. Uh, I I don't think that I don't think that I've ever had a problem with having too many messages on Discord. Obviously, all the server pings, there's tons of those that I don't get to. But like, if you private message me, either I'll see it and not be able to get to it, or I don't see it, or I just see it like it just hits the thing and then it goes away when I accidentally look at it. But usually I respond as fast as possible, and sometimes it's short, but sometimes it's like an entire explanation into something. Like, what is this? What is this? Um, but yeah, if it's just something like that, I personally think DMs are cool. But I'm also not a woman on Twitch, so DMs to me are different than most women on Twitch. So just be careful. I think DMs are cool, and if you want to DM somebody, do it. Just do it politely. That's it. If you're a man DMing a woman, just don't be creepy. I think it's pretty easy not to do so, but some people don't have that that capability sometimes. Just don't be creepy. Like, hey, I really appreciate your stream. Thanks so much. I gift you subs just to support. Have a wonderful day. That's it. DM him an owl pick and do whatever you want. Owl picks do good stuff though. Owl picks are pretty great. Um, be honest and polite and not a creep. Check. Yep, there you go. That's the checklist right there. Be honest, polite, and not a creep. There you go. It's me with bat picks. Specifically, if you send me a fruit bat, like a picture of a fruit bat, I'll swoon for sure. Because fruit bats they're sky puppies, right? Jet, my dog, is basically a fruit bat. He just doesn't have wings, and he's brown. He's like tan brown. Huh, Jet, come here. Want to see my fruit bat? Ugh, my little fruit bat. He's a little dingo slash fruit bat. Hi, puppy. People have called him a dingo. It's kind of dingo-like. Oh, I'm not talking about his demeanor. I'm talking specifically about his appearance. Go ahead. His appearance is also that he's a fat boy. But yeah, that's my little fruit bat. Wes loves bats. Also check. Yeah, there you go. But yeah. Cool. Awesome. Any questions before we get to this? Needs more puppy mic licking. He would probably like this too. This is like kind of like his toys material. Um but yeah, any questions before we go? I think we talked a little bit about delegation. As with everything, we don't go into full everything detail, but also as with everything in this show, we talk a lot about the things around it, and we also talk about things that we've talked about in the past or in the future or whatever it might be. Yes, I talk about things in the future. Haha, because time travel and stuff. Um, hey Maul. But if we didn't get to it specifically, we'll probably, like I said, we'll probably get to it in another show, and we'll hint on it. This is very much a show that you don't need to listen or watch every single episode, but if you do, you'll sort of get a bigger understanding of the whole entire picture. But there are specific shows that you'll probably get a lot of information for as well for that topic. But if you want something that is very specific for each topic, that's when you watch stuff like the stream scene and 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 behind the streams and hotfix and stuff like that. Even hotfix, I think, does something similar to me, where we'll talk about something as a whole, and then we'll have a specific focus, but we'll still talk about things as a whole, and we'll touch on the things that we've talked about before, and may touch on something later. Um, but yeah, I think that's sort of the theme of this. It's I mean, I purposely don't make a plan for shows like this. We have a topic, and then, like, I think was it JD White or Salty that said you're like a wind up toy, or like the Zoom Zoom race car toys. We just got to wind it up and just watch it go. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Just give me a topic that I have a little bit of familiarity with, and if I understand the space as a whole, which is streaming, um, you just wind me up. I do need that wind up though. I can't wind myself up sometimes. Most of the time, I can't wind myself up. So just wind me up, and I'll go zooming down the kitchen floor, often straight into the cabinet. Because I had those toys too, and they would fly down the kitchen floor, but because our kitchen was square and not like super wide or long or anything, it would just fly right into the cabinet. Smack! Like Duke Kaboom. All right. We good? Let's see. You get my wine. No, I get it. I got it at first. I got it when you explained it. I just didn't understand necessarily what you were saying at the beginning. That's it. Let's talk about facial hair maintenance and Twitch community's take on it. Oh my god. I think there's a couple instances that have made me extremely afraid of if I really decided I want to get rid of my mustache. Um, but also comforted at the same time. Uh, Alaskan Savage is definitely one of them. Alaskan Savage shaved his mustache, and the internet kind of freaked out a little bit. The internet got very scared. And the internet went, "Oh, what is happening? The world is going to implode." And that got pretty scary. Same with Cobalt Streak. Cobalt Streak shaved his beard, and the internet kind of freaked out a little bit. It's like, "Oh damn, oh damn, what's happening? Oh damn, it's gonna explode. The world's about to implode." But they got over it pretty quickly, thankfully. Um, I like my mustache. I don't see it going away anytime soon, so don't freak out yet. But it's a touchy subject for communities mostly. Because everybody with the facial hair, really, it's like, whatever, dude. I live with this every day. But the communities that watch the people with the facial hairs, oh man, they're sensitive about it. 100% they're sensitive about it. It starts to implode a little bit when it's like, "Hey, I'm gonna shave my mustache off," or because like people suggest it for charity goals all the time. I'm like, "Do you understand how long of a punishment I would receive for a charity goal like that? Let's do something that people will enjoy, not that people want to hate." This is something that is bothersome to me, but you will enjoy for a charity goal versus not that bothered because, like, as much as I do love my mustache, if I got rid of it, it probably wouldn't bother me too much. It actually might make my life a tad bit easier because I do have to maintain it. Um, so it might even be a literal weight off my face. So it wouldn't be too much of a problem, but I think it would be a problem for everyone else, which is kind of yeah. Let's think about that a little bit more before we start suggesting more shave off the mustache for charity. So that's why I'm like, that's why I was like, I'll shave off the beard and just become a mustache man. I'll become a Russian powerlifter. Um, but yeah, I love it. All right, we guys good? You guys get add more stash for charity? Oh, dude, just let it grow. Absolutely. Once again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. If you guys have never been here before and this is your first show ever, either whether we're here on StreamerSquare or just the dance stream of thought in general. I hope you guys enjoyed it. This is the general format of the show, but every now and then we do guests. If you have topics for guests specifically, or even topics in general that you'd like to suggest, like send it to me somewhere. Whether that's a Discord DM, a Twitch DM, uh, tweet it at me on Twitter, or put it in the actual StreamerSquare Discord, discord.gg/StreamerSquare. Put it in there. I have my own channel in there. You can suggest it, and we'll go with it. And if you have, even further, if you have actual guests that you like to suggest that would either fit that or that would be up to come in here and have an interview with, please do so. Remember that my thing that I'm good at is interviewing. So if you just want to hear an interview from them, it's like we'll do it. I'll figure it out. And if it's relevant to content creation or becoming a better professional or just a more professional person, we'll do it. And even if that's outside the industry too, if we have to get like somebody who's just graduated from like mentorship from somebody who they really enjoyed and was like, hey, this is how mentorship works and stuff like that, we can do that. Um, we probably need another legal episode soon. Um, we did terms of service and EULAs recently, but yeah, we there's a lot of stuff to cover. On what? That's up to you. I'm not the legal person, okay? That's the attorney chatting on what? Well, man, I mean, talk about it. I mean, whatever you guys want to know more about. Like, what is something? The place you're invited. You're always invited. Um, if it's something to do with, I mean, what is something that's big right now? DMCA, we're not going to talk about. That is simple. That should take 2 minutes to explain. DMCA is literally just it's an act that protects people's IP. So if you use somebody else's IP and you receive a DMCA for it, that means they don't want you using it. It's simple as that. Um, so yeah, just don't do that. We had the conversation last week about Mixer never did the DMCA stuff, and Twitch is very strict on that. It's like, well, it's probably because nobody reported it on Mixer, but it's not okay to do on Mixer either. It's not okay to do anywhere. If you're using somebody else's content, if you're using somebody else's IP, internet and intellectual property, if you're playing somebody else's music and they don't like it and they have never given you permission for it, they have full rights to be able to say you cannot use that. Um, but like I said before, not in this stream, but before, T Pain just put out new music. Dragon Force and their last album is available, and Pretzel is great. And there's probably some stuff on YouTube that you can totally just use and say, hey, I'm perfectly safe using this. Does an artist have rights? That's a great question, actually, for a legal episode because I don't know. I think it's a long. I think it's until it becomes public domain, right? It's like 190. It's a long time. Yeah, it's like 190 years after the artist's death, right? Not even 190 years after it was created, isn't it? How about IP rights on commissions, emotes, and channel art? Same thing, really. Um, but yeah, we can talk a little bit about possibly what attorneys suggest as far as like derivative works, because we've talked about this before too. And this, we're not going to get into the topic. Obviously, we're trying to end the show. But derivative works of a piece of IP usually is okay to use, but it has to be basically a certain amount of derivatation. No, of derivative piece. Like it has to be enough art that is not exactly the same as the IP to be used, so that you can say, hey, this is not technically yours anymore because I've changed it enough. But that is always up into interpretation. That is an extremely deep conversation we could probably get into. Remember that you will never receive legal advice on any of these shows, but you can hear what thoughts are from attorneys who do work in this space or who have obviously learned about it. So yeah, let's get out of here. I want to say thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. If you've ever have any questions, go to the Discord, join us on YouTube, youtube.com/StreamerSquare. And make sure you're following on Twitter as well if you want to follow some of that stuff. There's StreamerSquare is also always tweeting a piece of advice or when the shows are live and stuff like that. So please have a good one and enjoy yourselves. Remember to stay positive, play more video games, and read more comics. Goodbye, everyone. I see you. Bye-bye.